Bonsoir LeBlanc. Wait, Blanc? Is it LeBlanc?
Welcome to the Forest Creek podcast. I can't really.
Is he
I'll
LeBlanc?
start sounding like Foghorn Leghorn from the Looney Tunes. I say, welcome to the Forest Creek podcast. I don't know. I can't really do that accent very well. It's like a deep Southerner. So I'll just say it in my normal voice. Welcome to the Forest Creek podcast. I'm the killer. I did it. We finally did it, actually. We watched Glass Onion.
We finally did it.
Let me tell you kids a little tale about us trying to watch this movie. We have gotten it wrong, I think 3 times now.
I think you got it wrong twice. I got it wrong once. Not that it matters.
Both times we ended up trying to do different podcasts. One time we were planning to see it on Netflix, and then I looked at my phone and found out that they'd actually done a theater release that day. So I was scrambling back. It's like, I can still make it home. Let's go to a theater right now. Let's watch it and let's do the review. And they ended up playing it in the theater only on that day. And that day was the day that we had one of the worst traffic jams in Vancouver history.
Well, there's a snowfall.
There's a snowfall,
major snowfall.
Everybody forgot how to drive. Everybody was
Classic
just
BC.
inching in traffic for hours on end. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to make this movie. I can't even make it to the next exit. Afterwards, I was like, all right, this no fault. We still got tons of time. Let's catch the next theater day. They only had it for that one day. We tried and failed multiple times.
Yeah, I remember because we couldn't make it on a Tuesday. You were coming back from where were you? Seymour?
Yeah, I went up onto Mount Seymour. I was snowshoeing.
Just by yourself?
Yep, pretty much.
Trying to find Sasquatch?
Found him.
Nice. Did you take pictures?
He also liked Glass Onion. He was trying to get to the theater. No,
yeah, so and then I remember so we were like, okay, we can't make it for the Tuesday. That's fine. We'll just watch it the next day, Wednesday. And then that afternoon you sent me a link and it's like Glass Onion pulled from theaters. I was like, what? Are you serious?
It was like, nobody wants us to watch this movie. And finally it came out on Netflix right before Christmas, December 23rd. And we were hoping to do it. Snowstorms all over BC.
Yep.
We finally caught it on Netflix. We just watched it a few minutes ago. So maybe you got a chance to settle down this Christmas and watch Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. Why is it called a Knives Out mystery? Well, it's because it was a sequel, technically.
Yeah. It's
the same cinematic universe as Knives Out.
Well, it's the main character, Benoit Blanc. He is the detective. He wasn't actually... I wouldn't say he was the main character in A Knives Out. It was actually the female lead. I forgot her name, but she was, I guess, the maid. Or not the maid, sorry. She was the caretaker of the character who dies early on in the film, right? So she was the main character, I think, in A Knives Out. And so she's not in Glass Onion. The only character that carries over is Benoit Blanc. And so now we're basically seeing a new franchise of a whodunit, which I'm totally down for. And I think Rian Johnson did something really special with A Knives Out, which is basically he resurrected that whodunit
I feel like we're
genre.
saying A Knives Out. The movie's just called Knives Out.
Oh.
Knives Out, if you didn't get a chance to catch it in theaters. Well, apparently it's a new cinematic universe where we're going to follow Daniel Craig doing a southern accent as his modern-day Hercule Poirot, who is something Blanc.
Well, this is Daniel Craig's retirement gig.
Yeah, it's good. No, I like
think,
it.
I think it's awesome.
He settled into the role.
He settled into the role. He kills it. He's having tons of fun playing it.
He's truly
and they're good movies.
A masterful actor, and these are good cinematic experiences. He plays a detective who wanders in and out of houses of massively rich, vapid liberals, and he somehow always ends up teaming up with some underclass minority to thwart them in a murder that they all conspired to.
Yeah.
Let's say.
We don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah. I will. Let's try not to spoil anything for either film. But point being, Rian Johnson is directing for both these movies, and he's a masterful director.
Yeah. No, I've actually been following Rian Johnson for a long time. When I was really into making movies, I would look for low budget films. Like I would watch a lot of films made under $1 million because that was realistically what I would be like. I wanted to know how can your movie look, or how good can a movie be with a budget that low. I watched a lot of horror movies, and Rian Johnson, he had a couple low budget features as well, and then one of them was called Brick. I'm not sure how many people have seen that. I highly recommend it. It's and it's a murder mystery, but it's a high school murder mystery. The main character is actually played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. This is before Joseph Gordon-Levitt became like really famous. Or actually, no, I think he already did Freaks and Geeks by that point, so maybe he was a little bit famous.
Was he in Freaks and Geeks, or?
I thought he was.
I remember him in Third Rock from the Sun.
So, okay, you know what? I'm getting confused. Yes, it was that.
Okay. Well, very
James
different
Franco
shows.
was in Freaks and Geeks.
Yes.
Okay.
Very different shows, Freaks and Geeks and Third Rocks from the Sun.
True.
To be honest, I like Third Rock from the Sun better.
Okay, I haven't seen either.
Dear place in my heart. Yeah, but Rian Johnson, if you may also be familiar with his more recent title, Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Wait, he did Last Jedi? No, I thought that was J.J. Abrams. He did Rogue One.
No.
Wait, what?
J.J. Abrams did, The Force Awakens, and then he did Rise of Skywalker.
Oh,
but
you know
in
what?
between them, Rian Johnson did...
Edwards did Rogue One. I'm getting confused.
Yes, but Rian Johnson did The Last Jedi. Probably the most hated.
Yep. Nope. You're 100% right. I got that one wrong. For some reason, in my memory, I had Rian Johnson doing Rogue One, and then... No, that was Edwards, the guy who did Godzilla. And then, no, he did, right. I blocked Last Jedi out of my memory. It's not canon for me.
He struck a chord with a lot of people with that movie when he decided, my whole theme is that Star Wars is no longer for just those nerd Star Wars fans. It's for everybody now. So his movie, The Last Jedi, was basically a sad attempt to pander to a lot of aspirational, diverse audiences, and it didn't really center around a good plot, a good theme.
Yeah, it was poorly
kind
written.
Of wasted everybody's time.
It was actually overall just a boring movie.
Yes.
That's what I would say. It's like you open the film and it's great. It's got like this action sequence, I remember, and then it just...
Let's also put in a commentary about capitalism as we're running through, like it's... Will you stop?
Yeah. But this isn't a review of The Last Jedi.
No.
I don't think anybody wants to hear that.
I'm sure they're also bored of those. But this is a review of Knives Out and a Knives Out Mystery Glass Onion. I just said that backwards.
So what did you think of Knives Out? The first one? I guess now, yeah. So I'm not sure if they're going to number these. I think of it
the same thing as I do. I think of both these movies the same way, in that they're very masterfully made. The casting is excellent. The acting's on point. The cinematography is nice. I can't think of one objectively bad thing to say about it.
So there's no... It's well crafted.
Except for the fact that as soon as I saw somebody who wasn't white come on screen, I'm like, they're either innocent or a hero or both. And I was right. Both counts.
So would you say that Rian Johnson's kind of got some like political agenda with some of these films, or?
I don't want to be the millionth person to make that commentary. I feel like it stumps something, because his movies are like, they're complex, they're well thought out. I thought it's smart. It's an interesting take that you're watching all these really nice, this wonderful family of people who are all coming together, and then as soon as we start to side with that one character, we start seeing them all turn into monsters. Right? That was kind of a Knives Out. Oh, I'm saying it now. Knives Out. That was kind of the deal there. In this film, there's something that's not too different from it. It's something similar where it's like, okay, this, without spoiling it, it steps in the same river, but it doesn't step in the same water. Right? And if anything, I really like this film for its setting and for its overall design. I love the color. I love the flashiness. The layers that these characters had were actually complex. I think he stepped his game up from Knives Out, to be honest. This was a very well-crafted movie. Same intellectual premise. Rich people bad. That was it. Or, I mean, it's just classism. That's his whole thing. So you can, if you want to kind of poke the hole in the whole thing, if you sit down in a Rian Johnson movie, just think, who is the underdog class they're destined to win?
Yeah, I mean, there's a sort of irony there, because apparently Rian Johnson, like they when they basically purchased I can't remember, like the studios purchased the rights for a Knives Out, like this mystery, this
Knives Out.
Yeah, Knives Out mystery kind of franchise now.
That's what we're going to call this podcast, A Knives Out.
They like gave everybody involved $100 million. So Rian Johnson got paid $100 million for this movie. So if that doesn't make him like one of these, or at least put him in that same class, you know, not to mention all the Last Jedi money he probably made. And I don't have a problem with him making money because he's made excellent films. I really respect him as a filmmaker and a writer, but like
to be honest, he's exactly the tool for the job. When these executives, when we get an IP like Knives Out, we know, okay, people like old-fashioned mysteries, but they don't like old-fashioned attitudes towards modern-day things. So we can modernize an old-fashioned style of story. And what we saw in both cases was like an Agatha Christie novel come to life, especially so with Glass Onion. It was just like, and then there were none, right? So it's an old-fashioned style mystery. Now let's do a really good job casting and pick people who are going to nail the roles. Let's shoot it in a fun and entertaining way. You can easily get wrapped up in the drama of these characters on screen. It's beautifully written. Now let's make a franchise where we just send Daniel Craig to another interesting place, surround him with another cast of interesting characters, and kill one or two of them, and see how, just another story. They'll pump out one of these every couple years. They make some kind of deal with Netflix. And now Netflix has a thing that people are going to look forward to. A murder mystery you can cuddle up to with your family right before Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, I think this film would have done great if they left it in theaters. I don't know why they pulled it after a week.
Yeah. But, I think it's something to do with Netflix.
I think so as well. I think Netflix is promoting their platform, I guess, and they need certain IPs to have like their release on their platform to kind of maybe further it or whatever. Because not Knives Out. We're going to keep correcting ourselves this entire podcast. Knives Out did incredibly well at the box office. I think it made like $370 million against a budget of only like $40 million. So it was incredibly successful in theaters. It did very, very well. And then I think Netflix ends up paying Rian Johnson a stupid amount like we talked about. And then now he's making...
This is our IP now.
Yeah. I'm totally fine with more of these films. I love them.
Do it. I'm just interested to see like what went on behind that theatrical release, because I was wondering if like did Netflix decide we can release this thing on Netflix and get all our views, or we can try releasing it in theaters first and then sell tickets and then come back to it. I'm curious. I'm curious what the business model was. I'm curious what the strategy there was and what ended up happening with that one-day theater release. So I guess looking back at it now, like the Knives Out theater experience, we had a good time.
Yeah, it was
awesome. And I came out of that like that was a good movie.
Yeah, it was
fundamentally
really fun, really sharp, thoroughly entertaining throughout. Well written, very well made, and again, it was just that movie. I think a lot of people had a similar experience where they were reminded how much they love a good whodunit mystery. It's so much fun, and there's good comedy. There's good comedy throughout that film, and Glass Onion as well. In
both films, even though they're very well put together, I still think Daniel Craig playing Blanc, which let's just call him Blanc, is the linchpin that holds the whole thing together.
And he will be for the foreseeable future, because if they're going to do a franchise, the only character who I see actually carrying over from film to film is Benoit. It's like basically the adventures. It's like kind of like Sherlock, except instead it's, like the adventures of Benoit Blanc, right? And you could see like at the beginning of Glass Onion, we find Benoit Blanc and he's basically just been sitting in a tub for basically since the last movie. And he's kind of like a Sherlock character where he gets depressed when he can't solve mysteries.
He does remind me a lot of like those detectives who are a little bit quirky, usually kind gentlemen who are a little bit quirky. That's your classic detective, except for Murder, She Wrote. So like it doesn't strike me as odd at all, right? And I think you picked a masterful actor to represent that and bring that out in a modern sense. Yeah. With Blanc, the accent is not obnoxious. You'd think it would be. If you're just thinking this British guy's going to come in here and he's going to do a Southerner, it's not obnoxious.
It's not obnoxious. It's actually just fun. I would say so many of the choices that Rian Johnson makes is basically like, this is fun. The way the murder mysteries are unfolding, or the way that you learn about like different, the characters. He just, any opportunity that Rian Johnson has to make this film more fun, he takes. Right? And so that's what I think makes these whodunits more than just a mystery, right? There's a lot of character reveals, there's a lot of humor. Kate Hudson's hilarious in this film. What did you think of the cast? Because we have a bunch of star celebrities in this one. Even Hugh Grant gets a little, like, 10 seconds.
When I was a kid, Bautista was my favorite wrestler in WWE. So watching him in movies now is... I think he was an amazing pick for Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy. I think he's done a lot of other great roles. He was actually one of the Bond villains that fought against Daniel Craig's Bond in one of the last James Bond movies. So seeing him do a more serious movie like this, I actually am starting to... Because he's done serious movies as well. But I think he's starting to really step into some breadth as an actor. So I'm curious to see what he would do after something like this. What's the next role? Or how he would grow into it. But he really, he brought his A game to this. He played like a goofy character and still made us interested. So I was curious about that. The casting in general was very well done. They looked like people in Hollywood. They looked like exactly what they were supposed to be. They're all rich, famous, successful celebrities.
Well, that's right? The thing. It's like I feel like they didn't have to act. I feel like all the actors here basically had a relatively easy time playing these roles, because they just kind of channel some stuff that they maybe already have, and then a lot of the performances, just like you saw in the first film, they're just a bit over the top. Benoit Blanc is the most over the top, and then everybody else is just short of him in terms of their performances. And again, he's just keeping it fun.
Yeah. No, classic with murder mystery movies. This is one of those murder mystery movies where you're rewarded for paying attention.
For sure.
Because it's all 100%. About the details, and I love being able to say that because now it's a game. Now go to theaters. Go to your Netflix, watch this movie, and look for the details. Maybe you'll be right. Because you can make some guesses. I made some guesses, and I was right. Yeah. Did you make any guesses?
I made some guesses, but like just like the first film, it very fast. Actually, I would say this film is a bit faster in terms of pace.
Faster, flashier, but more clever.
Yes, more I would clever. Say so. I mean, this is a side comment. I thought overall, not Knives Out was better overall, but the mystery in Glass Onion is more, I guess you could say, clever, a lot more kind of lines to follow, and there's so many little details that, like you said, if you were paying attention, you would have been rewarded. Did you get it? Did you actually make...
I didn't solve the whole thing, but I picked a couple of plot points where I was like, okay, this is actually this. That person's actually good. This person's actually conspiring with that person. I got a lot of those really quickly. Okay. I didn't solve the whole thing, right? Which I really love that. As soon as... I feel like from a lot of this movie, Benoit Blanc is in the background, but every once in a while he steps back to center stage, goes on one of those little detective monologues, and okay, now we feel safe again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that was so much fun in the first one, right? Like when he went on that long monologue, because I had no idea what to expect. I knew it was a murder mystery, but that's basically, I didn't even see the trailer leading up to Knives Out, but when we finally got that monologue, it was so satisfying. It was just so satisfying to see him just go off, and then obviously at the end the reveal and everything that happens, and then he does it again. But this time it's a little bit different. They do kind of put they make some changes. They don't repeat it exactly the same.
Benoit Blanc goes to upper class place X. He deals with upper class people Y. Minority person Z walks in. They immediately become the hero of the story, and then Benoit Blanc does exactly the same thing again, where he solves the mystery but stays to the background while this other person is technically the hero.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what the third one will do, because I think you're right to kind of map out a bit of a formula at this point with this. It's true. After because I had no idea what to expect from Glass Onion.
Rian Johnson isn't guilty of anything in my eyes. I think it's for some deliberate choices, yes, but detective stories are deliberately formulaic. They have to be, because you're dealing with elements and you're trying to move them around like pieces of a puzzle.
Right. No,
Yeah.
but what I think you're pointing out, and which could be a problem, is if he's really if that's like a rule for him that the minority always has to come out on top.
We're like
Then,
the underclass.
and you
the
know
underdog.
that going into the films,
Yeah.
that just makes it a little bit easier to solve the mystery before it's solved.
Hey, I was wrong about things. I was genuinely twisted up at some points. I was surprised at some of his quite a few of his reveals. I'm not a genius who like solved it instantly. I just made some guesses, and those guesses were right for cheap reasons. Like, I shouldn't be able to make this accusation. I feel like there's a lot of ways that could have been. There's a lot of intellectual kind of ideas behind movies that are harder to guess at and more complex. I just feel like because that was easy, there were other parts of the mystery that were easy, and it like worked its way down. Right? It's a crack at the foundation. It worked its way up all the way up.
Yeah.
Right. So I hope that he keeps, because he changed things up enough to make me think that next time I actually don't know.
Yeah, and I think that he wasn't quite done exploring this setting of like rich people.
Yeah.
I feel like he still had a lot left over from Knives Out, and so we kind of explored more of those ideas in this one. But they definitely will, because I think Glass Onion has been and will be successful. And if Netflix have already given him all this money, then it seems that they are committing to many of these films. And I don't see Daniel Craig or any actor that wants to get involved with these successful films, because it just looks like fun. Honestly, you look at them and you're like,
no,
I
hope they make 11 more.
Yeah,
I hope
exactly.
they make them a month forever. I'm happy with this.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to be negative at all.
And so if they continue with always like it's always got to be rich people dying and stuff, or if this is the setting every single time, I think
not dying. It's always got to be them.
Or it's their web of lies that Benoit has
By
to
being
like.
rich, you're therefore not innocent. By being poor, you're therefore innocent.
Right.
Yeah.
But
it's a classism thing.
I guess that if that's going to be the message every single time, that could definitely run dry. But for me, the concern would more be with the setting. If they're consistently doing the setting like in the rich people world, I think
Time
you'll
travel
run out of ideas.
to Rian Johnson's writer's room and grab him by the collar and be like, sometimes the butler did it. Sometimes the butler just do that.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I actually thought that was intellectually a smart take in the first one, because the butler did it inverted is an interesting premise, right? And that's very much Knives Out. Glass Onion, I don't want to spoil anything, but a lot of the devices are like cliches from the world of detective fiction, right? Classical detective fiction. I made guesses that I didn't think were going to be true. I'm like, this is cheap. There's no way he did this. And then he does it. He does it smart. He does it in a beautiful way, to where I make it think it's like, okay, maybe it's not just cheap. Maybe it's like a love note to detective fiction.
Yeah. I think you do see a lot of that for sure.
Yeah.
But he's not reinventing the wheel or anything.
He's just doing a really smooth while running a wheel that for some reason almost turns left. It's, again, they're great movies. They're great movies. But I just don't want to see through them.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. I think and there's an irony to the experience, because on the one hand, we love the mystery. We love trying to solve the mystery, but at the same time, we don't actually want to solve the mystery. I want to be wrong. You know what I mean? Like, as I'm watching a mystery, a whodunit, I want it to be difficult. And the film pokes fun at that at the very beginning.
Yes.
At the very beginning of the film actually makes a sort of meta joke on that very dynamic that the audience often will have with a mystery film. So I'm okay with not with him wrapping it and making it difficult to solve. That's what I want.
Yes, me too.
But exactly like you say, if you can see through it because of the politics that you can gather from the previous two films, and well, actually not just the previous two films, but maybe his filmography, then that kind of cuts through, I guess you could say. It's sort of like, you're like, well,
it's like you made this beautiful lock, and instead of solving it, I just found the right hairpin, just jammed it in there, and
it's
works.
the same hairpin every time. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's even worse, right? So I hope he plays on top of this, because this film is smarter than the last one. I'm guessing he's gonna change up enough elements and make the next film smarter than this one. But like you say, he's not done with the room yet. He seems to have a lot to say.
Yeah. So what do you give it? out of like overall.
Are we done the review?
I don't know. We can keep going, but I just want to know what you're, because I haven't heard.
I think we talked about pretty much everything, honestly. But the way this is written is great. I'm very happy with that. Like, the dialogue is sharp. It's not predictable. Like, the jokes are funny. There is decent levity in this film. I remember watching it at the beginning. You and I were like a little confused, and we're like, when does somebody die?
Right. That's true. The film does take its time to actually get to the murder island or whatever.
It feels like a warm, bright comedy at first, and then when it does actually get into the mystery, it gets interesting.
Yeah.
Right. It takes you a while.
Yeah. This is a hard film to review because I don't want to give away any spoilers. Like the Avatar review, like what spoilers were there to give away? Everything was just so obvious from the first 10 minutes of the film.
Let me run down some of these elements I wrote down. Direction.
Oh, very well directed. Like on a craft level, I don't really see. There's actually not a whole lot to comment on just because it's very clean. They don't really make any mistakes, right? Like Rian Johnson, he uses a lot of the same camera tricks that he did, even going all the way back to Brick. He loves those camera, kind of like the Martin Scorsese shot. I feel like he probably watched a lot of Scorsese because he likes these really fast. They're not zoom-ins. They're dollies. Like he's moving the camera, right? Like Quentin Tarantino will do the zoom in. Ryan Johnson's kind of more like Scorsese, where he likes actually moving the camera into a close-up, and a lot of that.
Away, he really does play with the objects on screen.
Yeah, for sure. He's selective with his close-up. Like, yeah, he's a good director. He knows how to put together a film. His film's well edited as well. All of his films are actually very well edited. So on a craft level, like pretty much any time it's a Rian Johnson film, I know craft-wise it's gonna be really crisp. So yeah, directing, no real
casting, acting.
Again, I thought no issues. Edward Norton was hilarious.
He was really great. He looks old now. Yeah, but he did a really great job.
As soon as I saw him, I'm like, oh, he's going to be the billionaire? Oh, perfect. He
nailed it.
Yeah.
Anybody else would have been obnoxious. Yeah. When Ethan Hawke showed up, I was very
happy. Yeah, that scared me.
Like, is this going to be a Bond villain? What's going on?
You know what just occurred to me?
What?
Is Hugh Grant the butler?
I thought it was his dad.
Oh, Hugh Grant's his dad?
I had no idea.
Because if Hugh Grant is his butler, we might see him.
Please let Hugh Grant
future films
be the butler. That would be incredible.
I'm excited.
That's fantastic. Because I like Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
You know, he's that British guy from all the old rom-coms.
You're going to have Hugh Grant and Benoit Blanc in the next one.
Don't look at me. Go watch Love Actually. It's Christmas. Writing, very well done.
Yeah.
Plot, very well assembled. Intellectual basis, teeny tiny crack. That's my problem.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
No, I think that's fair. Personally, I find the writing for this one was good. It was solid. It was fun. It gets a bit mangled, but all of it, I think pretty much, I'm not sure. Were there any major loose ends that weren't, I can't remember if there were. I'd have to think about it some more. But
it's pretty well wrapped up.
It is well wrapped up. I was a little like, where is this movie going for the entire really second act? I was actually like waiting. Again, I don't want to give away anything, right? So, but I was a little lost in the second act. Not that it was not entertaining, but I think my mind was just expecting something else.
Yeah.
And I was kind of waiting for that thing to come, and it sort of does. But it was still entertaining nonetheless. But I personally, I thought Knives Out was more rewatchable. I found myself, I think I would watch that movie. I'm more inclined to watch Knives Out again than I am Glass Onion, to be perfectly honest.
I haven't seen it since.
Oh, okay.
Knives Out. Knives Out. I haven't seen it since. I felt like this movie was more fun than Knives Out. I think it was a much better showcase of what Knives Out is supposed to be about. But Knives Out, smarter, a little more hidden. I felt like there was more subtlety to it.
Yeah, and I think that's why I would go back to it. I thought the end was more satisfying. Probably because I was more with the main character of the film, the nurse. And so and this is sort of the secret to making films where people rewatch them constantly, generally speaking. If you already know the plot, especially when it's a mystery, you're not going to go back for the plot unless you're like, there's a lot of loose ends that you're trying to figure out for yourself, and all these little hints. You can go back for those reasons, kind of like a puzzle. But for the most films, you're going to go back because of character. And so if you actually like the characters or the dialogue,
step back into that space.
You want to kind of I
feel like I should rewatch Mordecai. Did you ever see that with Johnny Depp? Very good. Point being, Knives Out, I feel like I will watch again. I can wait a while before I watch this, but I feel like this, it was again more fun.
I connected a lot more with the main character of Knives Out than I did with the main character of.
I liked the underdog from this one. I thought it was well done. I thought she was more charming, but less sincere, if that makes any sense. Yeah, than the previous hero of the story. I'm happy with it. Would you see another one?
100%.
I'm down.
I'm down. Again, it's like you said, if they make 11 of these, I'm in for the ride.
I'll watch it.
This is Daniel Craig's retirement gig. I'm convinced he's just going to continue to make these and then retire.
I'm an easy sell. I already like Daniel Craig. He's my favorite Bond, or second favorite. I really like Timothy Dalton as well. That being said, what do you give it out of 10?
7.75. I
was feeling like an 8.2. Explain for me. I had fun. That was the most important thing to me.
No,
the writing, the drama, the genuinely being like, what's gonna happen next? I had more fun here. I think the reason being, part of it is just the setting was sunnier, brighter, more colorful. It had my attention. I enjoyed watching it for longer. The previous one, part of the motif was like warm colors indoors, cold colors outdoors, and outdoors was kind of gray, and then inside was like had a little bit more hue on the skin and the wood. It's like I got it. I don't know. It just didn't. Like it felt like I had to work to keep paying attention to this movie.
Interesting.
I was like, it was still an excellent film, but I did more work for that than I did for this one.
Yeah. So, I would have given. I would give.
Truthfully, I was waiting to answer for you to answer first, and I was like, I'm within a point above him. That's my scale.
Because I would give Knives Out maybe like closer to like an 8.2, and I would give Glass Onion a little bit lower, which is why I'm giving it like a 7.79. What did I give it? Like a 7. Basically close to a 7.8, but not quite a 7.8.
Yeah. You gave it a 7.75.
Yeah. Very, very particular, but
this is a good movie. Good movie. Would watch again. We'll watch the next one. I feel like we came in because I definitely had a little bit of an air of negativity for watching this film. I was like, oh, Rian Johnson, here we go. And then even coming off of it, like after seeing what he did and just being like, I can't objectively say what is wrong with this movie, but I know there's a thing here. And that underdog kind of linchpin is a problem. I hope he sorts that out. And definitely after we did Avatar 2, and that was like mostly negative, we gave it a 7. It wasn't like that bad. Actually, I was talking to a lot of people who give it like a 7.
We're cynical.
Everybody
critics.
I've talked to who's seen this movie has also given it a 7. We just sounded cynical, I think, when we're explaining why we gave it a 7.
Well, I mean, yes, that's one answer, that we're just cynical, which is probably true. But on the other hand, I feel as though when you have a film which is as big as Avatar, the highest grossing film of all time, and there's 13 years in the making, and everyone already knows how great the visuals are. It's like, do we really need to spend that much time talking about it? Like, everyone already knows that the visuals are good.
Yes.
Like, they already know that going in, and we did give praise and credit to the visuals. I even talked about a lot of, like, I think his name's David Simon. He's one of my favorite concept artists. I follow him, and yeah, like, I know the crew, the team of people, like the artists that work for Avatar are incredibly talented. So of course, but on the other hand, there's all the other aspects of filmmaking: editing, writing, acting, directing. There's and so those parts, let's be honest, were mediocre. They're not that good.
I thought, like somebody else was explaining the film to me about, we're not going to dive too deep into this, but he was saying it's a beautiful movie about parents handing their problems off to their kids, I was like, that's a really good way to put it, and it actually made me appreciate it a little bit more, but also a little bit more frustrated because I see where it could have gone. Rian Johnson is an incredible director. I have nothing bad to say about him.
Good.
I didn't say anything political. I didn't say anything political at all. I said something intellectual. I said intellectual. Intellectually.
The hole is already dug.
This is it's a weird energy to bring to this podcast, isn't it?
Listen, man, I don't like films, and it's like you said, when they kind of try to force that in and it's a bit too heavy-handed, that's the weird energy that it brings.
Yes.
So I agree with you. I'm not really a fan when
I don't think it was heavy-handed at all.
No,
I saw
exactly.
what you were doing, and it's too late now. Can't go back. I wish I was dumb enough to miss this.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people are. Those are the 10 out of 10s. I saw it. Sorry, man. Can't help you.
That's true. No, it takes you out of the film. It really does. And you're right. The 10 out of 10s is like,
I actually,
you forget.
on the adverse of that, I thought the COVID mask thing that they did in the beginning of the movie, because it does take place in quote-unquote COVID times, COVID era, I thought that was actually well done. So, there you go.
Yeah. That was actually funny because they have Kate Hudson's character. She's like the rich fashion designer, and she's got the mask on, but it's basically just a fishnet mask, like a fancy fishnet mask that's literally doing nothing.
But that's like the same problem again. It's like, we know she's an airhead, so this is a joke, but it's nothing of necessary substance. Mm-hmm. It's like, I didn't see something that I'm supposed to think is proper be funny.
They named her Birdie.
It's smart on the outside, and that's all I can really hope for. Andres, tell us about the modern state of cinema.
That's a good question. Actually, I used to be very cynical about the modern state of cinema. I thought that they're just rehashing a bunch of IPs. And Hollywood is basically now boiled down to, like, for the longest time, there used to be about 5 to 7 major Hollywood production studios. Obviously Paramount, Lionsgate, 20th Century Fox, and the others, like you've heard them. But now there's pretty much only 2. Pretty much. And to be honest with you, it's not even 2 anymore. It's 1. Disney.
Well, Disney is like king of the castle.
Yeah,
They're
for sure.
still like, Warner Brothers is trying. They're trying.
They've pretty much taken over Hollywood at
they
this point.
sold themselves out so hard with that last Space Jam 2. Oh my God.
Didn't even know that happened. And then that was a major concern. That was a major concern for me. This was about 10 years ago. I remember seeing this happening because I was really close to going to the film industry. And I remember seeing these things happening and felt, okay, this is just not good, because what ends up happening is if you have only, like, let's say 2 major production studios, and you have these superhero films or these, even TV shows, and they're taking, like, every year the studio has a budget, like how much money they're going to spend producing films, and let's say it's $1 billion.
Yeah.
One superhero movie costs like $350 million. That, like, takes a huge chunk of the pie. And so they're really only making about 2 to 3 films, kind of putting all their eggs in one basket. And if one of those films bombs, then you basically don't have an industry anymore. So that was my concern. They've managed to do well for the most part, I think. Netflix entering the scene, I think, has been a huge help because they're funding, they're making their own.
You liked watching this in theaters? Now you can watch it endlessly at home.
Yeah, exactly. So Netflix coming onto the scene has changed things. So that, I think, they've made some good films. But the one studio that they're my favorite, and they've actually made The Green Knight, which we reviewed.
Yes.
A24. A24 make really, really good films.
Man, I feel like such a hipster repping A24.
Yeah, but their films are awesome.
Hipster. No, you're right. They're very artfully done. They're very awesome.
Mm-hmm.
They're not always. They're like, will you stop sometimes? Can we just have an explosion or something?
And not to mention that because of technology, it's becoming cheaper to make films.
Yeah.
And so the biggest challenge now is not, can I get this dolly? Can I get this nice camera? Can I get this lighting equipment? Or can I get this audio equipment? Like, it's becoming really cheap to make high production quality films. There's honestly no excuses. The hardest thing is, well, your creative abilities, and also finding talent in terms of like actors, cinematographers, and just assembling a good team of people to make something special. So I'm fairly optimistic. I think in terms of the big Hollywood blockbusters, they're kind of the same as they've always been.
They happen to be all over Vancouver, and if they're interested in making cool stuff, we're at theforestcreek@gmail.com taking interns.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. But you know, one thing is, when I think about it, I really don't care how many more Knives Out movies they make, so long as they make another John Wick, which is coming in March.
Super excited.
That's the one of my most anticipated podcasts to do. Is we go in, we watch John Wick 4, Keanu Reeves returns, and then we review it here. We've got a lot of fun stuff planned. Listen to all of our other stuff, and then like us, and then share us, and then tell everybody about us.
That's a damn near impossible task.
Or
Raph.
we'll release that picture of you.
There's that linchpin.
There you go. I'll release a red envelope. You don't know what that means. Now go watch the movie. I look forward to making a lot more podcasts and fun stuff for the Forest Creek in 2023, and to doing more of these, and also to meeting some cool people and helping them make cool stuff for their businesses, their services, their ministries, their products, their real estate listing. We can offer quality service made without breaking your budget. Just find us at theforestcreek@gmail.com.
I mean, we can do more than just not break your budget. We'll do it for free.
We'll do a murder. No. We're everywhere else, especially Instagram and Spotify at The Forest Creek. Find us there. More platforms soon. Send us stuff you want us to talk about.
Yeah.
I want to be a podcast for the people.
Or if they want to be on the podcast, they can also just DM us, and we can bring them on.
Yes. You will have to go through a vetting process. Basically, I just let the cat test you out. And that's...
What does Mishmish think? Mishmish think?
He's denied like 3 people who wanted to come on the show.
Oh, I'm honored. I actually feel really special about this.
So, and there he is to tell us that it's time.
That was actually Mishmish. Holy
to
cow.
leave our podcast.
Speak of the devil.
Yes. We should probably let him in, and we should probably go. We'll see you guys on our next show. Have a great one. Goodbye.
Bye.